just by mentioning that you've heard this a number of times, but I'll say it again because I don't know if I've said it here on the late night chat, but kind of right after Baba dropped his body, Eruch was asked if he thought that Baba would eventually become a religion. And Eruch replied that Baba was adamant that it not become a religion. And so he was asked, well, how can that be avoided? And he said, if his lovers would get together in small groups and share their mystical experiences, it could be averted. And this exchange took place in 1970, and I think later on, Eruch would have said, to share your inner experiences of Baba. But at that time, he called them mystical experiences. Uh, and I gathered from what Eruch said is that because each person's inner experience of Baba is so unique and individual, it would be impossible to make a out of it, definitely. But so anyway, what I'm saying here at the end of a late night chat last time, some of you suggested that we share our dreams and visions of Baba, and I thought that would be very good. But in order to expand the topic, I thought to include in sharing any inner experiences or communications or intuitions from Baba or exchanges with the Mandali that have been kind of pivotal, valuable, or inspiring in our life with Baba. Because some people I mean, I haven't had a dream of Baba since the 1970s, so I can hardly remember those. They're so far back. So anyway, so we'll start out and see what what you if anybody wants to share any of that, go right ahead.
Um, okay, I've got my hand up. Hello?
Ralph.
Yeah. Oh, so Jeff, what, I mean, are, was that pretty much as you recall Erich's words? Do you recall his specific words? Or is that kind of generalization of, because I know Baba meetings could mean sharing things. But oftentimes, when people met with Baba or were in his presence, like in a Sahavas, like the 3 Incredible Weeks, someone might tell about the dream they had, and frequently Baba would kind of discourage them that there was no need, that those were things they could keep to themselves. And why? Because it swells the ego. That the meaning of it was something perhaps better kept, uh, just silent, I think.
Yeah.
And that's not easily done. And that wasn't unilaterally always the case of things. Baba, like, of course, would have um, the man who was that lived at Meherabad, Kakabad, tell about his experiences, but Baba would tell him to tell about his experiences, when repeating Baba's name 100,000 times a day. So, but then on other occasions, I know of at least one that I'm thinking of at the moment. It's not a whole lot, but I know there were others where people told about their dreams of Baba, and like it seemed they were so, what the secret meaning was, like that. And then Bob would let them tell it, but then sort of like nicely tell them that he thought that might be better not to do that, not to tell them about these things, dreams and experiences.
Yeah. Well,
So the thing is, I'm trying to do is like say, give us a kind yeah, flip
wait,
side of the coin.
go say that. Continue, Ralph. Someone had their.
Flip
Uh,
side of the coin. Flip side of the coin. Yeah, that things are. It's good to consider things well and maybe hash it out with, if possible, in prayer with Baba, whether or not that was something that you really wanted to maybe just share with your best friend, your wife, or with friends in general. Like, you know, I so I just thought I would toss that
yeah.
up.
Yeah. No. I think the visions and the dreams might. Well, no. The Mandali were always interested in hearing your Baba dreams, and I don't. I mean, I think I wouldn't kind of interpret it too strictly, but I think sharing our experiences of Baba himself encouraged that, not to get into the ego about it, but to share how we experience Baba and what we've been through and everything, maybe how Baba has intervened to help us. Those
Yeah,
are always, I mean, a lot of the Zoom sessions are about that very thing. Um, but I know what you mean. The ego can kind of get inflated on it, but then that doesn't always have to be the case. It can be inspiring to hear what people have experienced from Baba. But anyway, we got a few hands there.
Marta?
Yes, also I want to remind you, Ralph, that what you say, I understand completely. But I wanted to remind you that when Mehera heard that someone had a dream, she was so excited. And she would tell them that was not a dream, that was a visitation from Baba. So once I heard that, I thought, okay, this is the real deal here. Yeah, okay. But anyway, I'm not going to share my dream, but I am going to share something that's a little thing between me and Baba that has been going on since I was in my 20s. My kind of life symbol has always been the heart. Kind of common for most people, but I would see hearts everywhere. I would find hearts everywhere. People would bring me hearts, and I have a backyard full of hearts that people have brought me from all over the world. And so when I was in, I guess, my late 20s, I had already gone to India when I was 25. And I would find hearts. And one time I found a heart, and I said, "Oh, Baba, every time I find a heart from now on, I'm going to know that you're sending me a kiss." And so I'm going to tell you about 3 things where hearts showed up that were kind of humorous. Several years ago, my mother was sick, and I was with her spending a week, and she wanted some flour tortillas heated up on the pan. And so we have one of those black pans, the heavy ones. And I put some oil in the pan. I sprayed some oil, and I was heating the tortillas up. And when I looked down, there was 2 perfect hearts that had gotten crispy on the tortilla. And I felt that Baba was sending me a kiss because it was a very challenging time with my mom and, all that mother and dad type of stuff, aging. So that was one time. Another time, I was home here in Santa Barbara making my morning tea, and I like to use 2 tea bags. And I happened to be using round ones several years ago. And so it was brewing, and I went to get the tea bags out, and both tea bags had been shaped in a heart floating on top of the tea. That was the second time. And the third time was really, this was really trippy. I went for a hike really up in the mountains here in Santa Barbara, not down below, but farther up. And I was hiking actually by myself that time. And it was kind of windy and steep. And I looked down, and there was a scarlet red heart, material heart on the hiking path. And there was nobody around. And I thought, oh my God, Baba, thank you. There was a scarlet velvet heart. So that is my little share about how Baba and I have a love affair with heart stuff. And whenever I find something, he gives me some heart stuff. It's a kiss from Baba.
You know, that reminds me that the Mandala used to say certain things would have Baba's signature on them. You know, that has Baba's signature, and you know, various events that just like that. So that's beautiful.
Yeah, Baba's signature. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Rosalie.
Jai Baba. Once upon a time when I was living in Berkeley, having shed myself of Los Angeles, it was 1968, and my parents absolutely did not want anything to do with Baba, and neither had I shared anything. But I decided I was going to send the "Don't Worry, Be Happy" card to my father, because I thought he has a good sense of humor. He'll like that card. Well, I mailed it down, and I got a phone call from my mother, and she says, "Don't be sending your father that weird spiritual stuff." So I didn't say anything more. I thought, wow, she's pretty sharp. She knew it was spiritual. So anyway, very Catholic. It's like having a pope for my mother. So I'm there for Christmas after that, and I'm playing the piano. I'm all alone with my parents, and my mother walks through the living room behind me, and she goes, "Baba." And I'm sitting at the piano, and I was talking in my mind with Baba, and I says, "Baba, don't tell me you're giving her a vision of you. I only see you in pictures." And I turned around. She's walking towards the family dog, this little dog. He was not a very nice little dog. He was cute, but his behavior was not. And I says, "Mama, why are you calling the dog Baba?" She says, "Your father changed the dog's name."
Wow.
Well, I went totally opportunist. And I went all of a sudden, and that dog was a nasty little dog. And I'll tell you why. It was very jealous. I couldn't even hug my father. He'd start growling and baring his teeth. Well, but all of a sudden I was in love with Baba. "I love you, Baba. Oh, Baba, I just love you so much, Baba." I milked it. I absolutely milked it. I was there a day and a night, and then I left. And the next time I went down for a holiday from Berkeley to Los Angeles, the dog's name was changed back to Dolly. With it had previously been Dolly, Dolly. And I told Mehera that story, and she just about started flying off the porch. I mean, then she wanted me to tell my mother about Bob. And, oh my God, that was another story. But I have to say, all she wanted for you, Mehera, was for you to love Baba and to know that he loved you. that was her, if she had any role, I mean, she was, other than being that female side of God, she was just the most, I would have to say, delicious beings I ever met in my life. I can't do better than Mehera. And she had to be Baba because, that was the true love of the two of them was just too overwhelmingly, powerfully beautiful, real, true, Yeah. I never ever, I don't even think true love, like I'll find true love. I found it. I found it. And every time she shares about the accident, and I heard it 4 times on May 24th this year, that is the most precious thing. That doesn't make me sad. I mean, I about do a dance of joy when I see that. It's so beautiful. She was so concerned about Baba, and she had the worst injury. But she did share. Baba says she's shared half that accident. She shared it. He was not telling other people they shared half of anything. And in fact, he's warned some people, don't ask for my suffering. Anyway, Jai Baba. Mehera was Baba. Mehera is all I could say. Mehera Meher Baba. Mehera Meher Baba. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. Yeah, thank you.
Michelle.
Jai Baba. So when I was 11, I was sitting in a circle, like with my sister and her friend, and we're pretending to be yogis. And I always had this burning question, why would God only come once? My parents were Catholic, and, we're kind of raised with the idea of the only Son of God is the Christ. And anyway, it occurred to me that Buddha was the same. But years go by, and I have this Who anthology book. Okay, so this book would open to this song here. Can you see this? And I would go, "Oh, Parvanjor, I don't know that song. I didn't even read it." But anyway, so I did have this one experience that I didn't know who it was. An angel came to my room when I was a teenager, but I'm going to skip that story for now and get to the other part. So Marvin was a Bible lover, and he had a poster, "Happiness Lies in Making Others Happy," on his wall. And then, Baba started coming to me in dreams. And I would think, oh my God, what is happening here? Who is this guy? So I think it was somewhere around Armatithi of 1991 that it was a year after I met Marvin in November of 90. And I don't exactly remember where this was. I don't know if I was sleeping or half asleep, but I had this vision. And I was in the Holy Land. And Jesus was walking on the water. He was like this. He was buoyant. And there was an olive grove. It was like an olive grove, and there were other people milling around. I was up on like a hill. And there was this music, this singing that was beyond comprehension. It was so beautiful. And there's Jesus. His eyes were like black diamonds emanating power, bliss. He was so beautiful. It was just amazing. And I walked down and I touched his sleeve and I asked him when he was going to come again and fix the world. And then I'm like, why did I ask the Aries ask that question? And he turns to me and he smiles, and he is Meher Baba. So when I went to India in '95, it was Christmas time, Eruch would always ask, well, what brought you here? How did you get here? It's like, well, and I told, part of that story. And what Eruch said to me was that how fortunate I was to see Baba in a dream, because he hasn't seen him in so long. And so it really touched him. That really touched me. And that wasn't the only time in the year before I came to Baba. He would come to my dreams all the time, and I don't even remember half of them. I only remember 2, actually, of that period of time. But anyway, that's kind of the story. I mean, I have lots of stories, but I have one really short one. So the other night, there's a Lincoln Park High School parents of band and orchestra parents throws a event for the families and the kids, and they give out award. The teachers give out various awards to the students. Well, we had been serving, and we were looking for someplace to sit, and we end up sitting by the windows, and there's Aaron kind of sulking like, Mom, and he's just starting to say, well, why am I here? I'm not going to win an award. And I just, well, I don't know. And just as he said that, his teacher starts talking about the senior who is always there, always volunteering, great musicianship, etc., etc. He had a whole list of accolades, and he calls out Aaron Schaefer's name, Aaron. So he won a director's award for leadership and musicianship, and it was just so Baba that it was like, why am I here? It's not like I'm going to win an award, Mom. And Baba's like, ah. So I thought that was Baba in action. Anyway, Jay Baba.
Yeah, beautiful. Congratulations to Aaron.
Yeah, and he graduated today, so I have a college student now. Woohoo!
Peter,
Bear with, okay, great, thank you. Well, I happen to be off tonight, and my Golden State Warriors are in game 2 of the finals, and I decided to be here. Instead, I haven't been here for a long time. I have several inner experiences I have had, or pivot points, but I wanted, since it's on the table, our conversations with Mandali, I wanted to share a cute little story that happened with Eruch in Mandali Hall, because I got a giggle out of everybody from Mandali Hall. I think it was my naivety. The first time it was my turn to go before Eruch, I was scared out of my mind to share my story, because I was just ashamed of it. And there was really no good enough reason to be ashamed, but I did not want to share my story. And I think Eruch noticed it, and he never asked me. And then later on, a bunch of us decided to go to, I think it was the Ellora Caves and a bunch of other places, one of which being Sai Baba's cave. And on the way home, on the bus, we said, who was left to go before Eruch? I said, well, I guess that's me. And we decided, if you have a chance to ask one question, what would it be? So we thought about it collectively, and the question that I would ask is, Eruch, what is the new holy book of this avatar period? So I thought it was God Speaks, hands down. But when I got a chance to go into Mandali Hall again, the irony is I'm 25 years old, I'm sitting down, and Eruch is standing up, being his advanced age. And who's going to argue with Eruch about, can you sit down, please, and I'll stand up? That's what I'd want to do. So I'm sitting down, and he asked me if I had a question. Peter, do you have any questions? I said, well, Eruch, we want her to know what is the new holy book of this avatar period. And Eruch patted me in the head and said, Peter, the book of the heart, Peter, the book of the heart. What did I say? I was trying to be cool about it. And I looked up at him partially and I said, oh, Eruch, I haven't heard of that book. And then everyone in Mondeley Hall started giggling. And I said, oh, okay, I get it. I get it. And you see, one thing that every blue moon, every so often somebody asks me, as a devotee of Mehera Baba, what do you do? What are you supposed to do? And I read quite a bit. I mean, some people read a lot more than me, but I read quite a bit. And I want to tell them, when you read up to this point, this is what you'll know. But I realize that's not valid because not everybody reads. And I want to add that one thing that blew my mind, talking with someone that is a native of India, they started talking about Hamirpur, that Baba said his heart is in Hamirpur. And we started talking about people being educated. And they said that the people of Hamirpur are very, very poor, live paycheck to paycheck, and they're uneducated. But the reason why Baba's heart is in Hamirpur is because when Baba had a celebration there, when Baba went to Hamirpur, the people that didn't have money for tomorrow put on such an unbelievable celebration for Mehera Baba. And I was surprised knowing that there were so-called uneducated put on such an unbelievable celebration for Mehera Baba having no money. And a recent definition I got of being educated, basically, to boil it down, is knowing how to get what you want. And it was, and so I think that for people that were uneducated, they were educated because they knew how to put on such a tremendous celebration for the avatar of the age with such little money and little means, that they really did have the means to put on all that. So it was very hard. Okay, there she is, never mind. Anyway, so that was one story I had of the Mondley I wanted to share. And there'll be other stories of other inner dialogue and pivot points I have, but I'll leave it at that. Jay Bob.
Yeah. Thank you, Peter. Yeah.
Baba has given me so many stories and so many things I could talk about, and I feel really grateful. And I really didn't want to talk about any of them, but something that actually came up this week. But first, after Martha's share, at some point we got a dog, a beautiful large Keeshon. They're adorable, they're loving, they attached to their owners. And everyone went along with my decision to name the dog Baba. And I mean, I was really conscious of, I would be constantly remembering Baba all through the day and night, every time I called him. And like the prayer, you alone exist. I mean, I would find myself saying things, Baba says, I do everything. But I would find myself saying, Baba just took a poop on the floor or whatever. It was a period where I felt so close to Mehera Baba, with such joy because of our dog Baba. So, and there are stories, but I'll skip that. I just want to say the other thing that I have, this one thing that I want to talk about, but through the day, something's been flitting through my mind and I think I'm supposed to share it. I was student teaching. I was in Queens College. It was my senior year, I guess. I was student teaching an English class in 6th grade in like intermediate school. And one day I had a dream. I was in Myrtle Beach. There were people first were in a big circle and with Baba. And then suddenly there was a big yellow snake in a clearing, and it suddenly just filled the screen and it was gone. And then I turned around and I saw Baba standing, holding in his arms, like that goat in that picture, you know, holding in his arms one of my students. And he's just holding her like this, and he's beaming and she's beaming. And it's like, wow. And I wake up. So I didn't even know this girl. She sat far in the back. I gathered later that she was considered to be troubled or difficult in some ways. But I guess every time I looked at her now, I remembered Baba, and that must have come through, because near the end of the term, all the kids, most of the girls, were gathered around me at my desk, and one of them, and Stacy, her name was Stacy Postal. She said to another girl, "I'm his favorite pupil." And I said, it was really just a dumb teacher thing to do, but I said, "No, Stacy, this is my favorite pupil." And she looked at me and she said, "That's corny, Mr. Paternity. That's really corny." For years, I was waiting for her to show up at a Baba meeting. It never happened. I tried to search for her online, but women change their names, you know. So Stacy Postal, I was thinking of her today. I wonder if I will ever see her and get to tell her this story. Okay, but the main thing that I wanted to say this week was different. It was not a dream. It wasn't a vision. It wasn't Baba dramatically appearing. I have a story like that I'm going to publish. It has to be shared, but this was not like that. It was last Wednesday, a few days ago. I was getting ready to go to an appointment with NAET, my acupuncturist. And I was looking online, and on Facebook, there was a post with an excerpt from Lord Mehera. And, you know, my first reaction is, oh God, the way they've rewritten Lord Mehera, they make it so smooth. And I don't usually like that. But this one was very smooth and very flowing and very, what's the word? Not delicate. It was so, it sensed, I'm not finding the word, beautiful. It was so beautiful and flowing, and I had never seen it before. And the gist of it was something like this. It's as if Baba is writing to one of his close ones, and he says, "In the world there is suffering, but I am always helping to bring my lovers into their wholeness, regardless of how near or far they are from me in their love. I see to each one to bring them to their wholeness. So don't be upset with me when I do what I need to do to help you." And I thought, wow. And for a split second, I thought, oh my God, this feels like a warning, like something's coming. And then I thought, you know, doesn't matter. It's a beautiful thing from Baba. I had no anxiety. I let it go, went downstairs to leave. No, before I went down to leave, I started sneezing, violently sneezing. I went back downstairs and I was getting ready to go, and now I'm getting woozy, and my voice is changing, and my physical appearance, my face is kind of blowing up. I mean, I had to call and tell the doctor. I said, I can't come. It's not safe to drive like this. My face looked kind of like Elephant Man. And when I spoke, I sounded like Vito Corleone. I don't know how Brando ever got that voice, but that was all that would come out because my face was so like this. And I was having a severe allergic reaction to a smoothie Zeke had made and offered me maybe an hour earlier, half hour earlier. And it really felt like my life was in danger. And anaphylactic shock, if it's not treated quickly, you know. And so it was a very scary day. And it's hard for us to go to the emergency room because we have Elena, my stepdaughter, and you don't want to bring her to a hospital. You don't want to have her waiting out in the car. And I really don't want to go alone if I'm in a condition like that. So we don't call 911. We finally found doctors that make house calls, but it's kind of like concierge medicine. So they're out to charge you as much money as they can. But someone came to the house. He gave me a shot of the cold remedy that's good for an antihistamine. And And by the next day, it was beginning to go away. But all through the day, I was very clear that of Baba saying, don't be upset with me when I do what I must do to help you. And I was really clear that that message was so meant for me, for what was going on. And later I tried to find the quote. You can always find a Baba quote. There are like 3 or 4 sites that I can't find that quote anywhere. And at this point, I'm feeling pretty close to certain that it wasn't there. I mean, that it was, that Baba put that there for me to see, because it was not like anything I have seen in Lord Mehera. But and I feel very grateful. I walked away from something that could have been quite life-threatening, and Baba gave me that piece of not advice, just please don't be upset with me when I have to do what I must, when I do what I must do to help you. So that's it. I hope I'm not repeating too much. It's hard to express.
Yeah. Yeah, beautiful, Tony. I mean, a little forewarning. Yeah.
A forewarning to put it into the right context.
Yeah. Yeah. Great.
Dina?
Yeah, well, I don't have Baba dreams. I don't tend to dream. But I did have a life after life experience where I saw, I had bought this apartment in 2004, the one I'm currently living in, and so it was cold, so I put in a new radiator, not knowing that they were coated with some kind of toxic chemical, and it shut down my breathing. And it was just horrible. And everybody said it would burn off in a few days, but after 3 weeks, it was just intense in here. It was like being in a smelting furnace. And so I finally, I was sleeping in the living room because this new radiator was in the bedroom. And finally, I took a room at the Y, and I was walking out of there, and I just couldn't breathe at all. And I took a taxi to the emergency room, and I died on the operating table, and they were trying to revive me. And I saw Baba in a long white sadra, and he had a scroll, and he said, "You're not on the list." And he pushed me back through this tunnel, and I came to, and they had revived me. But it was 2 years of not being able to live in my apartment, which I had just bought. And the thing was that it didn't bother anybody else but me. I mean, people came in and tried to clean it up, and it just didn't bother them. And so one time so I had to go into sleeping on people's couches. It was very humiliating and humbling because I had this nice apartment, but I couldn't live in it. And so one time I was in a sublet, and I came out, and I was just carrying on a conversation with Baba and saying, "Why are you doing this to me?" And I looked down in the sidewalk, and somebody had carved Baba in the sidewalk. And then I was in this show at the time at Lincoln Center, and
every night his face would, I had a scene where I had to kneel down and light some votive candles. And I would see Baba's face in the light pattern on the wall behind the votives. And I thought I was imagining it because, what are the chances? But then another actor said to me, "Who is that? Do you see that face on the wall?" It's like, oh, yeah. And so I don't know if you want me to go into any more detail about some of the things that happened. Do you want to hear more about this?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it'd be, there aren't too many hands up at the moment. Yeah.
Okay, well, I finally decided I'm gonna have, because every time I literally walked into my apartment, I was having breathing problems. I had an inhaler, and I was seeing a pulmonologist, and it was just an allergic reaction, but it was very strong. Anyway, so I finally decided, well, I'm gonna just have to sell the apartment. That there's nothing else to do. So I decided I was going to try to put somebody in there while I tried to sell it, and I would give him a reduced rate of rent in exchange for letting these real estate people in. So this guy came, and he didn't have a job, but he had $100,000 in the bank, and he said he was looking for work. Well, when I came a few times to collect the rent, I saw big, huge bags of garbage with beer bottles and liquor bottles, and like a lot of them. And then I saw some lithium or whatever, mood altering. Anyway, so this guy, and one other thing about him was, I said, well, the sheets are in the linen closet. He said, no, I don't want any sheets. I like to sleep on a bare mattress. So, whatever. So, but he paid, and he was okay, and still couldn't live in the apartment. One day I came to collect the rent, and he said, I read that book of yours about that guy. I was like, which book are you referring to? And he got this book, and he showed it to me. It was Glimpses of a God-Man by Bal Natu. And the thing was that it was all the way on top of a very big floor-to-ceiling bookcase. And so he, for some reason, climbed up onto the top shelf and retrieved this book and read it cover to cover. And he said it helped him to sleep. And so eventually he moved out, he got a job, and his life seemed to be getting better. But I still couldn't live in the apartment because of this allergic reaction to whatever was on that radiator. So I was going to again sublet it to a friend of mine, and she, at the last minute, changed her mind and said she couldn't move in. And at that moment, the smell stopped, and I never had any more problems. So I just thought, like, Baba really wanted to contact this guy, but did he have to put me through such hell? My tenant.
Yeah. And you also died and got to see Baba and discover you weren't on the scroll.
Yeah, I wasn't on the list. Yeah.
I mean, what an amazing thing. That's no small thing.
Yeah, I
Not
know.
itself.
That was in 2005, I guess.
Yeah. Wow.
Tanya, was he holding the scroll or what?
Yeah, he
What?
was holding the scroll, and he was in a long right sadra, and he had his hair long, like down,
Beautiful.
like when he was younger.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. I remember you going through this. I remember.
This was just
Yeah.
2 years of hell. And I would have all these physical symptoms and just I guess I later found out they coat those radiators with Rust-Oleum paint, and that's what the smell was. And it's been banned in California. It's
Oh,
Yeah.
But so far I haven't gotten cancer.
Yeah. Yeah. People can die from that stuff. No.
Yeah.
only if you're
Let's go on to Marion. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And thank you, Tina, so much. I have memories of that time of your life. And I thank everyone. So what I chose, I've had some dreams. One I think I might have read on one of these meetings, so I didn't choose it. So this isn't a dream. What it is, it's a story about a dog. And I wrote it up as a memoir piece and I couldn't find it in my memoir file. So I'm going to do my very best to make this as succinct. I'm going to time myself as succinct as I can, but also as dramatic as I can. Now, I'm going to preface it with a quote from Lord Mehera that I did not know at this time. And this incident was at least 20 years ago, at least. It was about a dog named Georgia. But I had never read this before, although I was saying Baba's name. And I knew that in any kind of trouble, I was supposed to shout out Baba's name. And I knew all of that. So I'm going to read this first because I discovered this just last year and I've added it to my memoir piece. Then I'll tell the story. So Baba said, this is volume 4 of Lord Mehera, if you ever come across any such savage animals, or if you find yourselves in a perilous situation, cry out my name loudly. I will then save you. Even if you die, you should know that I have saved you because my protection is real protection. I always protect my lover. There is a difference between remembering my name and actually saying it out loud. In the eventuality of your body being overcome with fear in the presence of any wild animal or other creature, such as a snake, at such moments of danger, you should loudly cry out my name, so loud that the sound of my name falls on the creature's ears, which will immediately make it as meek as a lamb. But before inanimate objects, during any serious mishap accident, such as a car crash or train wreck, you will be saved by remembering me with full faith from the bottom of your heart. So the main one that's the end of that. The main one I'm emphasizing is about shouting out the name so loud that when it falls on the creature's ears that is attacking, it will become meek as a lamb. So the story is, I was taking care of my son, David's dog. He had a rescue dog, and she had never been her name was Georgia, and she had never been socialized with other dogs because the people who owned her just kept her in a yard away from other dogs. So she would want to kill or attack another dog and kill them. But with humans, she was like a lamb. She was just so sweet. And so I went to dog training school with her. And I also went to some channelers to find out more about it. And I was told this behavior could modify, but could never be totally transformed because it's wired in the dog's brain. And so I learned how to always keep her on a leash. And I lived near Central Park, so I'd take her on long walks. And some people would have their dogs off a leash, which was against the law during the day. So if I saw somebody's dog wanting to approach, I would just yell out, put your dog on a leash. This dog is territorial. I didn't say this dog is kill your dog. I said, this dog is territorial. Get your dog on a leash, so, and then we would go in remote places in the park. And so one day I have George on a leash and we're way up in the north end of the park, but in a grassy area with a little hill, sort of a hill, not a real high hill, but a hill that I couldn't quite see over, all grassy, nobody else around, no one. So we're there just walking and stopping, and all of a sudden, from around the corner of this hill, which sloped down about, at least more than 20 feet away, comes this huge Mastiff dog. Now, Georgia was she was a medium-sized dog, short hair, but very high energy. This dog had to be about 3 times as big as Georgia and massive. It was a Mastiff. So this dog comes slowly around the corner of that hill, dragging a leash. So Georgia sees her and starts lunging on the leash at the dog, and the dog is slowly approaching us like we were prey, and is now slowly approaching. I start yelling because I figure it's got a leash dragging. There must be an owner nearby, and I'm yelling and screaming, get your dog, but I can't see over that hill. And I'm yelling at the top of my voice. Nobody comes. There's nobody else around. And to even go look for me over there. So the dog slowly approaches. Georgia is straining at the leash and barking and everything. The 2 dogs meet. And you know, when the paws lock and they're grabbing at each other and they're there, and I'm hanging onto Georgia's leash, and I'm saying, stop it. And I'm so terrified, and I'm screaming, and finally they stop because the dog stops. Georgia comes back but the dog starts to walk away. But when it gets about that 20, 25 feet away, it turns around again to start again the attack. So there's a little tree. I'm trying to hide behind it. I don't know what to do. I know if I ran, the dog would run after us. So I'm there, and the dog is getting closer and closer, and Georgia is barking and straining at the leash. All of a sudden, out of me comes, Baba. That huge Mastiff stops, just as in this thing that I read. It did not get scared. It was like meek as a lamb all of a sudden. I didn't use those words, but it just stopped as I yelled out like that at the top of my voice. It stopped very calmly turned around, walked away, and walked over that hill, dragging its leash. When Georgia saw she wasn't going to be attacked anymore, she got calm. She just sat down happy, just very happy. And I'm just standing there in an atmosphere of such high energy and it's impossible to describe. I'm sure everybody's had some kind of experience, but this very high, potent energy, I'm surrounded with it. We're all surrounded with it. I came out of that spell, and I thought, I'm going to run over the hill, and if there's an owner, I'm going to chastise that owner. And then I stopped, and I heard within, no, leave it, let it be. Everything's fine. So I never knew whatever happened to that dog, but that's the end of the story. But I'll never forget that. The difference between me terrified holding on that leash while they're locked paw together, tearing at each other. And then when I yelled out without the fear, Baba's name so loud. And then it was only some years later, I read this about so loud that the sound of my name falls on the creature's ears, which will immediately make it as meek as a lamb. And that huge Mastiff dog got meek as a lamb. That's it.
Thank you, Marion. Beautiful. Great story. And bears out Baba's words perfectly.
Micah.
I had to unmute. Well, I don't know how well I'll be able to tell this story because I'm getting older and I get a little confused and flustered. But it occurred in 1968, pretty much in July 31st, 1968. And I found out about Baba the following year, February 1, 1969. And I still thought maybe, well, it was just coincidental. When I found out later on that he had said his work was completely done 100% to his satisfaction, that maybe I played a part in it, or maybe it was just coincidental. But I had started participating in Scientology in 67. I was 26 years old at the time. And I enjoyed the questions that they asked in these private sessions. And I found myself communicating more, writing songs and I got enthusiastic about the results. And I joined staff so I could take the rest of what they call training. And I worked for a roaring $15 a week while I still taught guitar. I had maybe 10, 15 students that I visited in their homes, and I'd been doing that for a while. And one day, I fell out with the organization. Oh, I know what it was. I wanted to quit my job because my immediate superior left. And he was the only reason I wanted to stay. And his superior was such a hole. I couldn't stand him. I didn't want to work for him anymore. So I said, I want to quit and leave and do something else in Scientology. And he instead had just received a notice about this, what they call the conditions of existence. They went from power down to disloyalty. And he said, you're in treason. I'm laughing because, it's such a pompous thing to say to somebody. Because I wanted to quit, I was in treason. I thought that was rather dumb, but they had a man called an ethics officer, and he monitored my results. So my progress as I went from disloyalty to adversary to doubt to liability, climbing up the ladder. And when I was in liability and completed that, then they welcomed me back into the group and everything would be forgiven. Well, I didn't like the fact that I didn't have any friends. I got disconnect notes saying we can't talk to you anymore. My mother wasn't allowed to speak to me. She had joined Scientology because I was in it. And the girlfriends that I had couldn't see me. So I was isolated. Well, anyway, I go through the formulas and everybody had thought, well, it was just a slap on the wrist. And, it was no big deal. So I get back into the group, and instead of being that result, people treated me as if I was an ex-con from Sing Sing. They wouldn't talk to me, like they shunned me as if I had cancer. And everybody treating me as if nothing had happened was a lie. And then I looked at the Creed of Scientology where they said, well, a Scientologist is self-determined. Well, I sure as hell wasn't self-determined. I wanted to leave and I was in treason. So, and not only that, I had to agree to do certain things, like give away a tape deck that I valued very much and say things that I didn't really mean to get back into the good graces of the group. And I found it was, right now I realize how extraordinary it was that I discovered I had sold out my conscience. I had betrayed my conscience in agreeing to this decision that I was in treason. Yes, I was in treason, all right, but to my own conscience. So I had to decide. One of the things in the formulas was decide who your friends are. I said, this is before Baba, you realize. And I said, my friend is my conscience. And then the other part of it was to strike a blow at the enemy, because disloyalty is sort of like you're working on the other side, like a double agent. And so, and you're hidden behind your pretense. And in this case, I was just playing this part in order to be part of this group. And I had sold myself out. So I wrote a 4-page handwritten letter, because that was before the age of computers. And it said basically that Scientology was in treason to its own creed, its own principles. And I showed this to the guy, to the ethics officer, and he freaked out. And then you got to realize I was nobody. I wasn't a member of any organization, I was essentially a nobody, a schlump. And I write a 4-page document that freaks him out so much, he takes me by the ear and throws me out of the organization. And, but I had struck a blow at the enemy and it had resonated. So then I got 200 disconnect notes from everybody in the organization. and eat shit and hope you die, and terrible thing you are. And I had a boat, and I was going to take Scientologists out for boat rides and make some money that way. And that was gone, and I didn't have a job, and I didn't have any students anymore. I was completely alone and destitute. And the most extraordinary thing happened to me. I kept on going through this formula. And the next stage in adversary was find out who you really are. And I was sitting alone in my boat. Just loved being in that boat, contemplating stuff. And the formula was find out who you really are. And it came to me in a flash. I am an immortal soul. I have nothing to fear. And it was like a mantra that I felt like a volcano going off, this recognition that I am a spiritual being, an immortal soul. And then liability, uncertainty, I had to choose. And I said, I choose my conscience over this organization. Well, I got to a point where I was alone on the boat, and there was this golden presence in the boat, like a golden orb, and I could reach into it and pick out words. And I wrote a verse of poetry, which I'd always wanted to write. That was really authentic, because all my poetry up at that time had been stilted, the words kind of put together awkwardly, and I was really unhappy with it. But this verse was just beautiful. And the only word I remember of it was quietude. And quietude is the essence of communicating with God. This is when the mind is still. That's when you hear him singing. And so I had this brief period of this magical company, being in the magical company of this old golden orb. And I wrote a paper, and the only thing I can remember about the paper were some of the points and the dates. The date was July 31st, 1968. And it had to do with 100,000 people with high integrity, people who would rather die than betray their conscience, could help bring about a new humanity. Only at that time I called it the Brotherhood of Man. And then an organization was not, people don't have to conform to our organization. The organization has to accommodate them. Because an organization, by definition, is a group of people who have a common purpose. But that everybody is different. And if we look at the 2.5 billion people who are part of the new humanity now, whether they know it or not, all have different opinions. Some of them have multiple marriages. Some of them have this and they do that. And whatever stripe they are, if they have a common purpose, the organization includes them. And we work together to iron out the differences as you would in a marriage or any relationship. Bob would call it accommodating each other, which he said for a married couple would lead to God realization. And also for motor, another point that I remember was having an 8-cylinder car that only worked on 4 cylinders. And you had to stop the car. You had to just finally admit that the sucker wasn't going to work until you fixed it, and then stop it and then rebuild it so that it performed as an 8-cylinder. And those are the only points that I can remember of it. But a year later or so, when I was reading The God Man, or maybe that's something else I was reading, Baba had said on July 30th, 1968, his work was 100% complete. I thought to myself, well, I played some part in this. I wasn't presumptuous enough that I was the key. You know, I was still consider myself to be a nobody. And, but I always celebrated the date because I typed it out. And the only thing I remembered from what I typed out was the dates. And then later on, just recently, I realized that July 30th in India is July 31st in our continent, half a world away. And I told this, I wrote this to Bao when we were really close, and I was his disciple, his student, and then his brother. And he said, he wrote to me right away. He said, you have to write your adventures down in your ghazals. And I decided to tell this story tonight because I guess of all the stories I have, that is the most significant. And the other thing he said about that is, in a way, puzzled me and made me chuckle was November of 2009, when he was doing his chats. He said, maybe you are the Majnun of the age. Now, we all know what plane Majnun was on, right? You got to read God Speaks and find out about 6 plane saints. What they do is they're full of yearning, and they feel like beggars and paupers. And like Ali Shah, I believe it was, it said he felt like a beggar with a begging bowl before Baba. Here he is at the very height of shall we say, human existence, not the epitome of where a human being can be with normal human consciousness. And as far as he's concerned, he's a beggar with a begging bowl. And all he could think about is Baba. And Majnun, if you read the story in The Everything and the Nothing, Majnun was totally absorbed with Layla. He saw her everywhere. And that became very, very real for me in a poem that I wrote, that he could hear her in the wind, in the thrashing of the leaves, in the way of the colors of the flowers. And when he shared his food with the animals, he was sharing it with Layla. So I've added, this is my own addition to the story. But in The Everything and the Nothing, the perfect master is sitting under a tree. Now, why perfect masters sit under trees, I don't know. But he sat under a tree and he asked Majnun, why don't you love God like you love Layla? And Majnun said, I only want Layla. And he gave him God realization. And that is definitely the path that I'm on. And it's all related to July 30th, 1968. And a good friend, Bao, who has loved me as his prodigal son. So that's my story. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. We have let's just take the 3 more hands, and that it's getting kind of late. Is it Marvin the next?
Yeah.
Or is it Michelle?
Hello, Jay Baba.
Yeah.
Okay, time to remember a dream. Yes. Hello?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Time to remember a dream that I had of Baba. I was in the library, and I entered the library, and Baba was sitting at the desk and had stacks of books, and he was just very busy working on all these books and organizing them and sorting them into little piles. And all I remember was being totally awestruck as Baba's working, just to see him. And I walked up to the table and I said, Baba, I see you're working so hard. Can I can I help you in some way? And he looked at me and was very kind of surprised. And then he said something. He said, take that stack. I don't know if he said actual words, but it came across. Take that stack and go file it in the library, please. So I said, yes. And I grabbed the stack and I put the books away. And then I ran back to the desk to see if he was still there. And he was. Still working, still, filing the books away. I says, is there something else I can do? And he says, yes, of course. You can take that stack and put that one away too. So I took that stack and put that one away. And then I came back very quick, very, very fast. And I said, is there something else? And he looked around and everything was clear on his desk. He said, no. But I want to give you something. You've worked so hard for me and you've helped me and I need to pay you. And I said, Baba, you don't have to pay me. I do what I do because of you. I don't need to get paid. And he says, no, I insist. And he wrote out a check. And he tears it out of his book. And he says, but you must spend it very quickly because soon it will be worthless. And then he gives me the check. And I go, thank you, Baba. Thank you so much. That's such a wonderful thing. I'm backing up to get out of his face, to leave him alone and get his work done. And who should come in the library door but my beautiful wife, Michelle? And I can look at her face, and her eyes are just like owls, like boing. Wow, that's Baba sitting at the desk. And I turned to her and I says, isn't it incredible? And look, he gave me a check. And Michelle looks at the check, looks at Baba, and says, how dare you charge Baba? And tears up the check. Because I started laughing because he said it would be worthless.
Soon.
And that's the way the dream ended.
Beautiful. Great dream.
Jai Baba.
Yeah, Jai Baba. Wow.
I,
J. Mayor Baba, can you
Yeah.
hear me?
Yeah.
I'll make this very quick. It is said that Avatar Mayor Baba is the knower of the past, the present, and the future. Nothing could be everlastingly, singularly, and by its very nature, true to Mayor Baba. I don't mean to sound serious, but I know this to be true, and it came to life for me over the course of my lifetime. I know, like everyone else in humanity, but Mayor Baba silently came into my life, into my lives of my ancestors. So he is what makes up all of us, really. So anyway, just the two quick memories I had is that one time I was in a hospital bed and I put my hand out I put my arm and hand out extended just to reach out for someone to hold on to. And I felt Baba's grip in my thumb with all of humanity, really, because I knew that it was faster than the speed of time, space, and the speed of light. I mean, this was like really, it was like Monsieur Passepartout, the one who knows every key to all the doors. Well, anyway, the only other thing I will say is that the other memory I had of Baba is that when I was around 13 or 14 years old, I was sleeping, and I could feel myself flying in midair. I could feel myself flying as if Baba were to take me away from the harsh realities of the American continent and fly me to, I don't know, somewhere else in the world, maybe India or something, where I could be, where I would be, I could feel my, like one of my legs like twitching. It was that kind of feeling I got from flying. But anyway, that's all I have to say. Jai Mehera Baba.
Yeah. Fly me to the moon. Da, da, da. Okay.
Peter?
All right. Help me, please. I was thinking about several stories, and this one out of the blue came to me about an inner dialogue with Mehera Baba. And by the way, it's happened a number of times where what's come through when I shared it with other people, they just laughed hysterically because it was just that funny. It'll take a bit, but hopefully it'll be like, give me brownie points, and the laughter will pay off if you all laugh. I remember years ago when I started reading Lord Mehera, there was this quirky little pesky discourse that came through that said, you start in the path when you say that the master's doing everything for us. And at that time, I was not ready. I said, the heck with it. If I do the action, I'm taking the credit. If I do the effort, I'm taking the credit. Then years later on, I remember it was a Tuesday night, and Mehera Baba talked to me in a way he's never talked to me before. That Tuesday night was the Tampa Bay Baba Group's meeting, and he basically says, you're going, non-negotiable. And he said it in his own masterly way, a very smooth masterly way, you're at the meeting, this is non-negotiable, you're going, that's all there is to it. So finally I get to the meeting, and I remember Pam Rubenstein read a discourse in Lord Mehera that was echoing this discourse I had said nay before. And I asked her where it came from. She says, Lord Mehera, what page? And she said it was way back when, and I had way past that. And I was surprised at how at one moment I was allergic to it, but then years later on, somehow I had enough of surrender that I could say, okay, now I could say the master's doing X, Y, and Z. And anyway, so later on, I got a job in a chiropractic office. And I was never a big fan of this man, but Joe Pesci comes to my mind. This Joe Pesci-like personality started to emerge in me, like a very carefree Joe Pesci-like personality. And on a side note, when I asked Baba how to describe this pandemic, a moment later on, this scene in the movie, My Cousin Vinny came up. And I said, yeah, that sounds about right, describing the pandemic. So anyway, in this chiropractic office, I was in the office, and the pseudo office manager was with the office manager, who was the boss's wife. She came to me and said, when we go to the new office, I'm going to give you your schedule because I know you're organized. And I was shocked that anyone called me organized because I didn't think so. But she says, I know you're organized, so I'm going to give you your schedule. Okay, fine. And we were kind of picking on the office manager because apparently she's like super disorganized, maybe like a clutter bug. And I'm going to ad lib this because I can't remember the exact dialogue, but I'm sitting there off to the side doing my soap notes, and Meher Baba gives me this phrase. I think this thought comes to my mind. And he says, say what's on your mind. And I'm looking at him like in my mind, like, you got to be kidding me. He says, say what's on your mind. And I'm hesitating. He says, say what's on your mind. And I said, I don't want to. He's like, say what's on your mind. No. Say what's on your mind. I don't want to. I'm too scared. Say what's on your mind. Baba, I may get fired. I don't want to get fired again. And I'm trying to get convinced that this is actually coming from Meher Baba, that this is coming from Meher Baba. And he starts saying, with my divine authority, I'm telling you, say what's on your mind. And I'm like, I don't want to. I may get fired. He says, I'm telling you, I'm God in human form. I know what's best for you. Say what's on your mind. And we go on and on about this for a couple of minutes. And finally, I surrender. I'm like, all right, screw it. If I get fired, I get fired. And I'm fed up with this. I don't want to be put on the spot. And I said, I'm an acquired taste. And the office manager and the pseudo office manager burst out in laughter so hard, they almost fell out of their chair. Their mouths were gaping open so much that if I took like M&Ms, I could throw it in their mouth and they'd be surrendered. That they couldn't resist. They were laughing so darn hard. And I remember, I didn't understand why it was so funny, but I remember going to Mickey Carger because he was an old ad man. That if anyone knows what an ad man is, he said, watch the show Mad Men, and it'll tell you. I told him, and he started cracking up over it. And I said, I don't know why it's so funny. He said, but it's a perfect saying. And when I talked to a spiritual advisor of mine, he said, it's a great thing to put in an interview because I'm a very eccentric kind of person. I feel like I'm rejected most of the time. And what I started to say in interviews is I'm an acquired taste. Like if you give me time, if you train me right, if you just can look past my eccentricities, eventually I'll be a good employee for you, but I'll be a nightmare in the beginning because I'm a slow learner, but eventually, hopefully we can get along. And it's this saying that came in my mind and he told me to say it. I'm an acquired taste. And it's what I use in interviews sometimes and when I talk to people. But this dialogue happens every so often with them, and it drives me up the wall because it puts me in a tough position. But when I listen to it and go through with it, I benefit. So I just wanted to share that with you all.
Yeah.
Now, if anyone else considered it funny, but
Yeah.
the people in the office laughed so hard, it was unbelievable. I don't understand why these people are laughing so hard, but they laughed for so long. And I felt like, great, if you guys are laughing, that's wonderful. I don't get it, but you're laughing, great.
What did you say? Could you repeat it? I didn't hear that. I couldn't get it. You said what to them?
I'm an acquired taste.
Okay, I got it. Okay.
That's a great line. I'll remember to use that. It's a good line.
Well, if you do, I may want royalties.
Go ahead.
Jai Baba, everyone. So dreams. Yeah, I've had several of Baba's over the years. Baba always said, dreams are your way of naturally spending your sanskars. And it's a good thing for you to do that because then you don't collect new ones. And dreams are just, they're a zero into a zero, nothing into nothing. But when I come in your dreams, that is real. So it's always Baba. And there's one that stands out. I cannot remember most of them, but this one that I had about 25 years ago, way back in 97, is still clear in my mind. And I wrote it down as soon as I woke up because I must have dreamt it right before I woke up. And it's significant to me in so many ways. But anyway, I'll read you what I wrote down when I woke up. And I think I've shared this before with some of you folks, you may remember. But anyway, here goes. So I wrote down, large gathering seems like Amartithi. Baba's body brought out of the tomb and displayed where all can view. Baba looks as fresh as if he's just asleep. We, that is myself, my husband, and someone to my left, not sure, who may be one of my kids, gaze at his serene form with great wonder. All of a sudden, as if the most natural thing in the world, Baba's eyes start fluttering, and I am so filled with awe and excitement and want to rush to him. People all around me are wanting to do the same. Finally, come near him. Baba looks young as ever, skin smooth, hair dark and wavy. I feel so overwhelmed, and as I'm gazing at him, he slowly opens his eyes and looks at me. I take his hand in mine, which feels smooth as marble and slim, and hold it gently to my face and say, Jai Baba. He continues looking at me and replies, Jai Baba. I feel completely lost in the moment and so very fortunate. Later, I have the sense that now that Baba is back with us physically, so many of his newer lovers who did not have the opportunity of meeting him physically before now have that chance. As huge a miracle as this is, to me, it feels like the most natural thing in the world. I later meet another Baba lover outside and urgently request him to go and find James Cox, who must meet Baba now. End of dream. So Jai Baba.
Beautiful. And James Cox.
Yeah, who knows, for some reason. Yes. Yes.
He's the one who put the money up for the Pilgrim Center.
Yes. Yeah.
The first one, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. In those days, I probably didn't know too many Western Baba lovers either. So who knows? But for some reason, he must have come into my dream. Yeah. So for me, it was significant in more than one ways, because my father always held that Baba had not broken his silence yet. So for me, that was very significant.
Yeah, beautiful.
Jai Baba.
So we'll end with Tony here before, yeah.
This is just a little thing about Marion's Mastiff story and about shouting out Baba's name. I was in India, it was around Amartithi, I think it was 92. And a woman arrived who was new to Baba, but very enthusiastic. She was an actor and an acting student, I think in North Carolina. And her teacher, to whom she was very much surrendered as an acting student, had urged her to go to Meherabad, go to Meher Baba's tomb. You must go there. And so she had just shown up. And we hit it off immediately in a way that, in retrospect, I didn't know I was an actor then. But the feeling I had is that the one that I have among other actors, that you're just like me. There's something about you that's just like me. And so we hung around a lot. And one day we're walking, one evening, from the Pilgrim Center towards either was the hospital or the theater, same area, and crossing over. And there's a big, and I've got the guitar, and I started to play something on the guitar. And there's this big bullock that suddenly makes this big noise, and he's looking as if he's about to charge. And I instantly shouted out, Baba, 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 Baba. And he just totally calmed down, went back to whatever he was doing. And she told me later that she was so impressed with that she didn't have a sense about the power of Baba's name, but it was unmistakable that the sound of his name had completely saved us from that situation. So Marion's story reminded me of that.
That's a whole lot of bull.
Thanks, Tony.
Hey, let's have, Bob, if you got a poem there you can read before we have a few moments of silence. I mean, I don't know if I'm putting you on the spot.
You need to unmute, Bob.
Thank you. Okay. Tug of War in Toka, 1928. They all wanted Baba's company, so they had a tug of war. Holding his wrists, they pulled, the ashram boys on one side, the Mehrabad girls on the other. Baba said, pull with all your might. Let's see who is stronger, who loves me more. Now you're gone. These few years that seem so many, and we can only wonder how to hold, beloved, how to pull you close. Hey, Baba.
Baba. Read it once again, and then we'll go into silence.
Oh. Okay. Tug of War in Toka, 1928. They all wanted Baba's company, so they had tug of war. Holding his wrists, they pulled, the ashram boys on one side, the Mehrabad girls on the other. Baba said, pull with all your might. Let's see who is stronger and who loves me more. And now you're gone. These few years that seem so many. And we can only wonder how to hold, beloved, how to pull you close. Jai Mehera Baba.
Jai Baba. Jai Baba.
Hey, Baba.
Jai
Hey,
Baba.
Baba.
All for sharing
Hey.
beautiful stories and everything.
Hey, Baba, thank you.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, Maribel.
You got
Thank
now-
you. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, everyone. Yeah.
Hey, Baba.
Thank you, Baba.
Let's get Nasreen to close down the tavern.
Yes. Avatar, Meher, Baba,
Avatar.
Ki Jai.
Jai.
Avatar,
Mehera Baba.
Baba, Ki Jai. Beloved
Jai.
Avatar, Meher, Baba, Ki Jai.
Jai.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night,
Thank you.
all.
Good night.
Jai
Good night,
Baba.
all.
See you
Hi.
guys.
Baba.
Thank you, Baba.
Thank you. Thank you.